know, except that White is also decomposing and changing into a monster. And suddenly the stress from all the gunfire gets to him, and he kind of pulls a Hulk, more or less. And that's where we start. Later, in memory, it would be a fractured mix of shouts and screams and bullets flying and Finch running into the back of White to keep as close as possible, tripping over the things, crawling off of White's legs, White exploding out from their shelter, overcoat thrown aside to reveal the body become other, a garden of fungus arms ballooning out into sudden wings of brilliant purple, red, orange, legs lost in shelves and plateaus and spikes of green and blue, back broader and insanely strong and gray, head suddenly elongated and widened as he ran. A high-pitched scream came from his mouth that frightened Finch and bloodied the ears of the enemy. The bullets, White kept taking them like gifts. They tore through his limbs, lodged in his torso, leaving holes, leaving daylight. It closed up, and running in the shadow of that magnificence as White's scream became a roar again, and they were assailing the ramparts of the enemy. He felt as if he were following some sort of god, his own gun like a toy, as from the shelter that was White, he shot back at the chapel to keep the rebels pinned down. White's voice came out, incomprehensible and strange now, guttural and animal-like. No part of him in those moments that was human. Once he looked back at Finch to make sure he was still there, the whites of his eyes colonized, his pupils looking like something trapped forever inside its own flesh. For a while, it was as if White had lent Finch that kind of vision, because he could see the bullets coming, as if Finch were floating overhead watching, and it was ecstasy or some kind of odd heaven, the surprise that eclipsed the pale faces of the enemy as White overran their positions. White trying to outrun something he couldn't outrun, tendrils from his chest racing out to impale them, the weeping muzzle of his gun taking them in the legs, the heads, faces trampled under his charge, fungal eyes still clicking and clicking as the bodies lay dead, while even the rebels' fire had become scattershot from the shock of the new, from seeing the glory that White had become, the monster. Then it all came crashing down, and Finch was in his skin again. In that one last look back, he saw it all as a crazed tableau of men falling, firing or running at an impossible speed. Almost distant enough as they made it to the worn streets of Milan to think of them as the silhouettes of broken, spasming dolls. Realized he was roaring too like White as the tears ran down his face as he kept firing behind him long after the enemy had faded into time and distance. Breathless, aching, side-hurting, White trailing bits of things into the rubble behind them, waiting for a bullet in the back of the head that never came. The acrid smell of spent ammo, a shambling halt under the shadow of the arch, the boat still tethered in the canal. White was still coming down from whatever possessed him, voice slick with some hidden discharge, muttering like wheat, like paper, just shredding them, just running through them. Finch babbling back, exhilarated, heart beating so hard in his chest. White's face had regained the semblance of the normal, skin sealed over the bullets, already now looking drawn, diminished. Finch kept seeing White killing the enemy. Get in the boat, get in the boat. Finch climbed in and sat down, held himself rigid as White cast off. You saved my life, White, Finch said, and it was true, monstrously true. Had White passed a point of no return, more things that had colonized him peered out from the collar of the coat. Don't go back to the station, Finch said, not today. We were sent there to die, weren't we? White said, matter of fact. Maybe it's all falling apart in front of our eyes. White made a wet clucking sound. He was trying to laugh. Didn't it fall apart a long time ago? Finch didn't want that in his head, shot a glance up toward the ridge. Anyone could pick them off, anyone. His vision blurred, too many things to keep inside. Every time he thought he'd tamp down one thing, another came rushing up. A long silence, a complex smile played across White's blurring lips. Finally said, you know, Finch, I think we're a lot closer to solving this case. A double take from Finch, a stifled smile. Yeah, White, sure you do. Rest now. I'll keep watch. White nodded, closed his eyes. A flake of something floated on Finch's shoulder, then another and another. He looked up to see that it was snowing. It was snowing in Ambergris. As the white flakes drifted down down, Finch on a hunch looked back. The white dome of the farthest camp had disappeared, replaced by an impression of billowing whiteness, an outline of what had once been. Realized that bits of fungus were raining down on them. Raindrops followed, thick but sparse. Finch blinking them away. He laughed then, a wide laugh, showing his teeth. The snow was still coming down, falling onto a white slack face, melting away into him.
Veronica Schanoes, I'm reading an excerpt from an as yet unpublished novella, which is a version of Rumpelstiltskin set in New York City in early 1911. In America, they don't let you burn. My mother told me that. When we came to America, we brought socialism and bodies to the rag trade, and when we went out on strike, the men called us the Farrente, the burning girls for our ardor. But we also were like demons. They stowed away on the ships with us, curled up in the small sacks we slung over our shoulders, crept under our skirts, and when we passed the medical examinations and stepped for the first time out onto the streets of granite we would call home, they were there waiting for us, as though they'd been there all the time. Switch. I'm cutting to the end. At sunset the next evening, we all waited together. Shayna, me, Ruthie, and Saul with Yale in his arms. And then a woman strolled into the room and spat at Shayna's feet and had my face in my body. The spittle sizzled and burned through our rug, my wedding present for Shayna and Saul. She said, "Shayna Mela, give me the baby. Give me the baby, girl. It's enough." She cracked her knuckles and grinned my grin, our buggy's grin. Saul tightened his arms around the baby while Shayna stared at the demon. The demon smirked. "I fulfilled my end of the contract, getting you to the Golden Land and doing your sewing, and the mob took your brother before I could. But I can do what I can make do with your daughter." She snapped her fingers, and Yale disappeared from Saul's arms and reappeared in the demon's. Yale began to scream and claw at the demon's hands with her tiny nails. "Abomination!" Shayna's voice was strong and even, like I didn't know my baby sister could be. "Abomination, cursed in the sight of Adonai, Tetragrammaton, and all his hosts. Abomination, and I, Shayna, daughter of Rachel, conjure you to forfeit the child, Yale, daughter of Shayna. I conjure and bind you by your own soul, your own self, your own name." She pointed her finger at the creature's heart and yelled, "Rumpelstiltskin!" The demon turned gray and began to spin in place. "The devil told you that," she howled. "The devil, not the devil, unclean thing," Shayna said, triumphant. "My sister." And she seemed to know the difference. Switch. The demon spun and howled wordlessly until the very air around it burst into flames, and I watched myself burning. The demon vanished in midair. Saul leapt to catch Yale before she fell to the ground. The only sign that a stranger had been in the room was the hole in the rug. The next day, I was 3 blocks away from the factory where I was going to pick up Shayna when I heard the fire engines coming up behind me. For a moment, I froze, trying to spot the fire. Then I began to run, but the engines passed me easily. And by the time I arrived at Shayna's factory, I barely had breath enough to push through the crowd. Poisonous black smoke filled the sky. Bundles of clothing trailing flames were falling from the sky, while the few doors of the ash building were choked with people crawling over one another in order to get out. Once they did get out, they didn't go anywhere. They just joined the other throngs across the street and watched the falling bundles hitting the ground with solid, damp thuds. It wasn't until I saw one of them trying and failing to push itself up that I knew who they were. I found myself out in the street where firemen were frantic with their own futility. Their rescue ladders went up 7 stories. The Shayna's factory was on the 8th, 9th, 10th roof, maybe. One woman staggered out of the building, looked behind her, and immediately tried to run back in. The firemen knocked her out, and in the end she kept yelling, "Unatopter!" I looked up. A girl stood on the window's ledge. Already her skirt was beginning to smolder, and even though she was so far above me, I swear I could see her face. In In passage, she opened her purse and threw the money inside onto the street. She took off her hat and sent it sailing in the direction of the park, and the wind whipped her hair. I could see flames as well as smoke coming out of the windows now, and her dress was on fire. She smoothed her hair back and stepped off the ledge as she was stepping off the curb and crossing the street. She plummeted, her skirts rose up around her, a flower of flame. She landed only a few feet from me, and something burning hit my cheek and bounced away before I could move. 3 women stood at another window ledge together. They linked arms, closed their eyes, and jumped. Their aim was really good. They tore through the bottom of the safety net, and the firemen holding it were spattered with blood. I didn't know the fire chief got to remove the injured even later. I didn't know they would come down 3, 4 at a time, arms wrapped around each other's waists. A man stood on the window ledge and extended his arm to hold the girl out. She tipped her head up and kissed him, and they stepped off the ledge together. Her hair was already on fire. All this I saw, but I couldn't see Shayna. I searched the faces of the women pouring out of the building, but I didn't find her there. I ran through the street, pulling away from the men who tried to stop me, and looked at all of the fallen, but I could not find my sister among them either. The windows were filled with flames, and there was no more jumping down. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I'm sorry I've lost her too. I'm so sorry. And I left while the street flamed with girls burning even in America.
I'm Jaym Gates, and I apologize if my phone's a little high for me. I'm reading from a story called As the Sun Dies. I don't know how many years we wandered. I don't remember how many mountains we climbed. I don't know the names of the rivers we forded. I don't know where we were on that last day, what country or territory. I don't remember the faces of my kin, and I don't remember my own name. But I remember ghosts. I remember a song, a prayer, a hope. I remember a misty dream. I remember when we crested that last horizon, the valley spread before us, the sun ahead of us. I remember that it was worth everything, every breath, every death, every tear. We were abandoned, then we were homeless, then we were lost, and now we are dying. Our people were alone for so long. The war started in the south and moved through the world like a wildfire, assimilating all the little endless wars that have been fought since man first picked up a stone. Ours was one of the islands, a town too poor to attract notice, too small to be useful, too remote to be dangerous. So when the infrastructure of our world crumbled, we were still there. We were spared nightmares of madness. A strange priest or prophet or young new god found us now and again. A little nuclear fallout, a few years of ash-laden rain. We covered our faces, burned the imposters, and filtered our water. When the news networks and internet died, we turned to the wandering traders. As generations passed, we became afraid of the outside world. The few explorers and travelers who found us either stayed or had accidents when they tried to leave. No maps knew us, no one could bother us. We disappeared from the memory of the world, a people unto ourselves. Without scientists, we didn't notice the sun fading. The days became shorter, but maybe that was because of the pollution in the south. The summers were cooler, but maybe someone had figured out how to reverse global warming. So many things we told ourselves did not be inevitable. No one imagines the sun just disappearing. The end didn't come quietly. When the earthquakes hit, 3 houses fell into a crack across the South River neighborhood. For days, we shook indoors, terrified to leave our houses. By the end of the week, it was dark, and morning had to come for 3 days. We had no way to find an answer, no way to find what had become of the sun. Surely it hadn't disappeared entirely. It must still be there. The new gods were not powerful enough to challenge the universe. They were figments of man's imagination and wickedness. So we sat in the darkness and prayed to the old gods. Winter settled on the mountains and then on the plains. Snow buried our houses until we had to dig tunnels to move. We became a subterranean people. Our men dug long tunnels onto the plains to bring back dead trees. We took turns watching the sky from the town square, the only place we could keep clear of snow and ice. For 2 years we scraped along, and the walls around the town square built higher and higher, blocking us from everything else. Finally, we gave into reality. The sun wasn't returning. We found an old radio in an attic. We figured out how to operate it eventually. Months passed. We despaired, gave up on the sun, on news, on other people. And then word came. It flew from halfway around the world, bounced from city to village to town to turn it to us. Experiments had gone wrong. The gods drove them to it. The world doesn't swim anymore. The world is dark. The sun is dying. 1,000 conflicting reports from everywhere that we thought was gone. We cried like children and threw our joyful proclamations back into the airwaves. We're going to find the sun. We have some food, some supplies. We have power and warmth. We threw open every switch and flooded the town with our precious energy. For a handful of moments, it glowed like it had in the old days, and news spread from mouth to mouth. They came from farther and farther away. We opened dusty old buildings for them, and one by one they gathered to us with their worldly goods, their families, their hopes, and their mended dreams. And on every tongue, the joyful news: the sun lives, the world has shifted, the sun lives, we will find it. So we packed up our lives and our goods. Our children and starving animals came with us, and behind us only ghosts and unlocked doors remained, flapping in the roaring winds. We would not return. Let the birds and beasts make caves of our dwellings. Let them try to survive in the icy wind. We would find the sun.
I'm Daniel Jose Older. I'm going to be reading from South Nocturna, first collection of short stories. Came out yesterday. You can get it in the it's from Cross Genres Press. You can get it in the trade. I'm short. My future daughter-in-law, Jamie, told me exactly how it would go down and what to say. She's been doing this for a while now, so she speaks white ladies like a pro. She had this fancy lady down pat, from the extra smile, to the cautious handshake, to the little sing-song apologies dangling off each phrase. Everything went just like she said it would. The words felt awkward in my mouth like pieces of food that are too big to chew. And I thought that Nancy was onto me, right up until she says, "That sounds terrific, Mr. Cortinas." "You can call me Gordo," I said. "It's called a non-profit, but everyone in the office is obviously making a killing. The kids are called minority and emotionally challenged, but there's a lot more of them, and they show a lot more emotions than the staff. It's a care facility, but the windows are hard. The list goes on and on, but still, I like my job. The building is one of these old Gothic-type numbers on a not yet gentrified end of Rome. Used to be an opera house or something, so it's still got all that good rundown music called Juju working for. I show up at 9 p.m. on the dot, because Jamie said my sloppy cooking time won't cut it here, so just pretend I'm supposed to be in at 8, I'll be alright. It works. They set up a little desk for me by the window on the 5th floor. Outside, I can see the yard and past that little park. And I find that if I smoke my malagueñas in the middle of the hallway, the smell lingers like an aloof one-night stand till the morning. And I get a stern, apologetic talking to from Nancy, and then a curse out from Jamie. So, I smoke out the window. A little after midnight, the muertos show up. They're always in their Sunday best, dressed to the nines, as they say, in pinstripe suits and fancy dresses. Some of them even have those crazy Spanish flamenco skirts on. They wear expensive hats and white gloves. While the children sleep, the dead gather around my little desk on the 5th floor. They carry on. Mostly they dance, but a few of them bring instruments. Old wooden guitars, basses, tambores, trumpets. It was 4:30 in the morning, 2 Thursdays ago, when I noticed the kids were joining our festivities. They mingled with the muertos like it was some prepubescent post-mortem sleepover party. There was Giancarlo, showing 2 faded shrouds on new two-step, and nearby a few dapper dead fellows demonstrating the jitterbug, marking each step so the young ones could follow. It was really very touching. Right up until Nancy appeared in the door with her mouth wide open. "What are you doing here?" I said. She wanted to know the same thing, but she said it more forcefully. And really, what could I say back? Outside, I took in the still dark morning. Newly unemployed, I I felt strangely fresh. Soon it would be breakfast time. Small faces gazed through barred windows as I walked away. Perhaps they were watching the jump procession of shadows that followed in my wake.
Kressel, and I'm just going to read a very short story fragment. He hopped onto the ledge, pushed the windows open, and jumped into the sky. "Gabe!" she screamed. "No, no, no!" But it was too late. The angel was gone. She climbed onto the ledge. The sharp wind attacked her hair, made her stand uneasily. 10 stories below, a few cars and pedestrians weaved dizzily to work. She spread her arms wide and whispered 9 forbidden words into the hidden folds of the universe. The universe tore open. The rending sound echoed down the avenues like thunder. A torrent of energy raced to fill the hole, like air rushing into a vacuum. And as it came for her, she altered its memory of what had been. The hole was fixed, and now she was a pigeon. The other pigeons on the ledge looked curiously at her. She spread her wings wide, danced a little jig, and they were transfixed. In the secret language of birds, she sung to them the way Kana's mother might have heard in the forests long ago in Ukraine. The birds leaped off the ledge, and she leaped with them. 5 went east, 2 northwest. A married couple flew together to the south. But Marul turned to the north where the smile was thickest. Oh, the delicious feel of air under her wings. In the morning sun, her wingtips glimmered like pearls. Humans thought these creatures burned them. They could not know the joy and freedom of a pigeon in flight. She could have stayed one forever, but they lived only a few short years. Who wanted to spend the day watching some eagles? She landed in the park of the Shanghai Museum and mingled among the timid flocks still scared from the recent culling by the cities of Darwin. 40 birds took to the air and she rose with them. She soared between the mighty towers of Pudong, their windows glimmering like oceans in the sun. She swooped along the streets of the Bund district, spreading her song, when a grouse flew up to her and sang 3 words in Japanese. Delicious cooked food. "But you're not a pigeon," the rule sang back to it. "Nor am I a grouse." It fluttered away.
All right, let's give one more hand for our wonderful readers. VanderMeer, Veronica Schanoes, Jaym Gates. Daniel the Elder, Walton, Kressel, Brian Francis Slattery in Japan, Brian would you like to introduce the band?
This is Adam Malak on accordion and Bobby with solo on various percussion.